All right. Haven't been in front of the camera in a while. You may have heard some EV advocates, myself included, talk about how much you can save by driving an electric vehicle. Even Tesla's own website defaults to showing potential gas savings when showing the cost of their cars. And because of that, you might think that switching to an electric vehicle is going to save you a ton of money, right? So right off the bat, I'll answer the big question you're probably wondering: can you save by driving an electric vehicle? But if you want to see the full breakdown, make sure you stick around through the whole video to get those details. So can you save money by driving electric? This definitely depends on the purchase price of the car you are comparing it to. So if you're comparing an EV that has a lower cost of a comparable gas vehicle, obviously the EV is going to save you money. If those cars are equally priced, their MSRP or their upfront purchase price is the same, the EV and the gas vehicle, then the EV is going to save you money. But if you're comparing a gas car to an EV that is more expensive, that's where it gets a little bit iffy. You could spend more money or save money depending on how long you plan on keeping your car and the purchase price difference between those cars. As is the case with most new technology, it comes at a premium, and you've probably noticed this if you've been out shopping for EVs recently. EVs generally have a higher upfront purchase price than a comparable gas car. If we look at the Kia Niro, for example, it comes in both a gas and electric version. The gas version starts at $24,690, while the electric version comes in at $39,090, a near $15,000 price premium. But before you get scared away, you'll be happy to know that EVs have continued to drop in price since they've developed, and no longer have a giant six-figure starting price like they used to even just 10 years ago. Tesla's cheapest car, for example, the Model 3, starts at under $40,000, the Chevy Bolt starts at $36,500, and the Nissan Leaf starts at $32,000. All EVs that are below the average starting price of a new vehicle right now, so EVs have certainly gone down in price a lot over the past decade. So even though they are more expensive up front, how do you actually save money by driving an electric vehicle? Fuel is definitely the biggest one here. Gasoline is needed to drive your car around, it's needed to fuel your car and go from point A to point B, so that's going to be the biggest cost outside of the purchase price of the car. But with an EV, they are all electric, so you don't need gas at all. Electricity is extremely cheap compared to the cost of gas. We have an average of about 13 cents per kilowatt hour here in the United States, which means I can fill up my Model 3 with a 300-mile range for under $10, which is just insane. There's also the lack of oil changes. So in a gas car, you're probably used to changing your oil every 7,500 to 10,000 miles, and that costs a significant amount as well. Even if you do it yourself, you've got to pay for the oil and do all of that maintenance. And that's something you have to do throughout the car's life. It's not like if your car breaks, that's something you have to do. You have to do it no matter what. As long as you're driving your car those miles, you're going to have to change your oil. But with an EV, you don't even have an engine that needs oil replaced, so that maintenance is completely gone. You don't have to pay for oil changes. Along with that, you don't have to worry about anything related to a fuel system or the transmission, so no more oil filters, no more spark plugs, no more exhaust system to worry about. All of that stuff is non-existent in an EV, so you don't have to worry about it. Brakes are another one. You will have to service them on an EV, but you can expect them to last much longer and need service less often than a comparable gas car. EVs are equipped with regenerative braking, which actually uses the potential energy of the car slowing down to charge up the batteries. And because there's a load on that motor, it actually helps slow the car down, so you don't need to use your traditional friction brakes. In my Model 3, for example, I use one pedal driving for most of the driving I do and almost never have to hit the brake pedal unless I need to make an emergency stop or stop extremely quickly. So all of these combined help make EVs much more affordable over the long haul, but let's look at some examples and compare a couple vehicles to see more of what I mean. First matchup here is the Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus versus the Toyota Camry Hybrid. The Model 3 is one of the top-selling EVs on the market right now, and the Toyota Camry is one of the top-selling gas cars. They're similarly sized and I think match up pretty well in terms of their driving capabilities. And I think the person that is shopping for a Model 3 might be comparing to something like a Toyota Camry. For argument's sake, we're going to be comparing new cars because it's easier to find data on them and it's a much more fair comparison in my opinion. We'll assume a gas cost of $3 per gallon, which is about the average in the US right now, and an electricity cost of 13 cents per kilowatt hour. also the average in the US. For the gas cars, we're also going to assume an oil change cost of $45 every 10,000 miles. Again, this is going to vary by car, but that's close to the average. All of these will obviously vary depending on your region or your specific situation, but that is how averages work. Some will pay more, some will pay less. So we'll be comparing upfront cost of the car, the fuel cost, either gas or electric, and oil changes, as I think those are kind of the big three when it comes to owning and operating a vehicle. We're going to disregard any other maintenance because that's a bit harder to estimate. So the Model 3 Standard Range Plus has a starting price of $39,490. At 50,000 miles of driving, your total cost of ownership will come to $40,825. At 100,000 miles, that comes up to $42,159. At 150,000 miles, that hits $43,494. And finally, at 200,000 miles, it hits about $44,829. At the 200,000 mile mark, that's about 15 years of car ownership if you're driving the US average of 13,500 miles per year. So that's as far as I went with my estimates. Now, if we compare that to the Toyota Camry Hybrid, which has an extremely high fuel efficiency of 52 miles per gallon, and an upfront cost of $27,270. After 50,000 miles of oil changes and fueling up your car, your total cost of ownership will come to $30,405. At 100,000 miles, it'll hit $33,539. At 150,000 miles, you'll hit $36,674. And at 200,000 miles, you'll hit $39,808. So as you can see, after 200,000 miles, the gap in cost between these two vehicles actually narrows significantly. The Model 3 had an upfront cost of about $12,000 more than the Camry, but after 200,000 miles, that gap shrinks to around $5,000. Obviously, because the Camry is so fuel efficient and has that lower upfront cost, it ends up still being cheaper to own in the long run. And just for fun, let's compare something like the BMW 3 Series. A bit more performance and more luxury than the Toyota Camry, but it's also got a little bit higher starting price and a much lower miles per gallon. It comes in around 30 miles per gallon of efficiency. We'll throw the Model 3 long range all-wheel drive up there as well to compare with the BMW. So you can see after 100,000 miles, our Model 3 long range, which has a even higher upfront cost than the BMW 3 Series, is actually cheaper to own than the BMW. After 150,000 miles and 200,000, obviously that gap continues to widen. And if we throw this all on a graph, we can see some interesting results. Obviously, the upfront cost does play a role in the total cost over the long term, but fuel efficiency and cost of fuel are the big kickers here. So we can see that the BMW 3 Series has a decently high upfront cost, but look at how steep that line is and how fast it goes up over the long term. We can see where it crosses over with the all-wheel drive Model 3 and ends up becoming more expensive around that 90 to 100,000 mile mark. But obviously the Toyota Camry, it does have a decently steep line as well, but even after 200,000 miles, because it is so low priced, it still ends up being cheaper than both the Model 3s we looked at today. So back to our original question and kind of the motive behind shooting and doing the research and the analysis for this video. Can you save money by driving an EV? I would say the short answer is yes, especially if you are planning on keeping your car for a very long period. I think the crossover point where the EV becomes cheaper just kind of slides along a mileage scale, I guess, as you compare different vehicles with higher MPG or higher upfront starting costs. All of those factors kind of play into it. So my advice here, if you are looking at buying a new car, definitely consider an EV and kind of run your own analysis like this. I think you'll find that going with the EV is going to end up saving you a lot of money over the long term. Again, especially if you're planning on keeping your car for a long time or you are somebody that likes keeping your car for a long time. And one final thing here, if you do want to just save the most money possible or your main goal for switching to an EV is to save money, I think the best way to do this, especially if you're a two-car household, is consider switching one of those cars to an electric vehicle, especially a used electric vehicle. There's a lot of good used cars on the market that are EVs that are under $10,000 you can pick up really cheap, and those are great cars just for commuting or doing short trips around town. Usually those older EVs are older gen battery technology and don't have as much range as a lot of the newer EVs on the market, but they make excellent commuter vehicles and vehicles just for doing short trips around town. And you're going to have essentially no maintenance and very small cost of operation and driving with that used EV. So that will do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching this and seeing my analysis of these different cars. I think this is definitely something that not a lot of people think about, is this total cost of ownership. So I want to do a full breakdown here and really show you how much you can save by driving an electric vehicle. Obviously, if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, drop a like on this video, and I will see you in the next one.